Eye contact can be difficult due to several mental processes. An overactive amygdala can heighten anxiety. Deep processing of information demands focus, and cognitive load can simply be overwhelming.
If you struggle to maintain eye contact and people tell you it makes you look weak, untrustworthy, or socially awkward, neuroscience has discovered something remarkable. Your brain is actually processing information more deeply than people who stare comfortably into eyes, and that's why you look away. Let's talk about something that's made social interactions exhausting your entire life. You can't maintain eye contact. Not because you're not trying, you are, but after a few seconds, maybe 10 if you're pushing yourself, you have to look away. Your eyes drift to the side, down, anywhere but into the other person's eyes. And people notice. They tell you to look at them when they're talking. They say eye contact shows confidence, honesty, respect. Your lack of eye contact gets interpreted as weakness, dishonesty, disinterest, or social anxiety. But here's what research in neuroscience and psychology reveals. Your difficulty with eye contact isn't a character flaw or social deficiency. It's because your brain is using cognitive resources differently than people who maintain easy eye contact. And in many cases, avoiding eye contact actually helps you think more clearly and process conversations more deeply. Research from cognitive neuroscience shows that maintaining eye contact requires significant cognitive resources. When you look into someone's eyes, your brain isn't just seeing, it's processing intense social and emotional information. The human face, particularly the eyes, conveys enormous amounts of data: emotional state, intention, truthfulness, attraction, hostility, confusion. Your brain is constantly analyzing microexpressions, pupil dilation, gaze direction, blink rate. This is computationally expensive. For some people, this processing happens in the background without overwhelming their system. For you, it takes up so much cognitive bandwidth that it interferes with other tasks, like listening to what the person is saying or formulating your response. Here's what separates you from easy eye contactors. You have limited cognitive resources for simultaneous social processing. Studies show that when people with eye contact difficulty are forced to maintain eye contact while listening to complex information, their comprehension and retention drop significantly. Why? Because their brain is allocating resources to processing the intense social information from eye contact, leaving fewer resources for processing the verbal information. When you look away, you're not being rude, you're freeing up cognitive capacity to actually understand what's being said. You're looking away as a strategy for better listening, not worse. Let's talk about the neurological reality of eye contact. Brain imaging studies show that direct eye contact activates the amygdala, the brain region responsible for processing threat and emotional salience. For most people, this activation is mild and manageable. For people with social anxiety, autism, spectrum traits, ADHD, or high sensitivity, the amygdala activation from eye contact can be overwhelming. Your nervous system interprets sustained eye contact as overstimulating or even threatening. This isn't irrational throughout human evolution. Prolonged staring was often a sign of aggression or threat. Your brain might be more sensitive to this ancient danger signal. Research on autism spectrum traits reveals something crucial. Many people who avoid eye contact do so because they are processing facial information differently. Studies show that, while neurotypical people focus heavily on eyes when reading faces, people with autistic traits often gather more information from other facial features or body language. Your looking away isn't missing information, it's gathering information from different sources. You might be reading tone of voice, body posture, hand gestures, or overall facial expression rather than drilling into eye gaze. This is a different information gathering strategy, not a deficient one. Here's what people fundamentally misunderstand. They assume eye contact equals listening and attention, but research proves this isn't true. Studies of students show that those who look away while listening often retain more information than those who maintain constant eye contact. Why? Because looking away reduces visual stimulation, allowing the brain to focus more on auditory processing. When you're staring into someone's eyes, your visual cortex is working hard. When you look at a blank wall or the floor, your visual cortex is quiet, freeing up resources for listening. Your looking away is increasing your attention, not decreasing it. Let's talk about cultural and individual differences, because the eye contact rule isn't universal. In many cultures, East Asian, Indigenous, some African and Middle Eastern cultures, prolonged direct eye contact is considered aggressive, disrespectful, or inappropriate, especially with authority figures. The Western cultural expectation of constant direct eye contact is not a human universal, it's a specific cultural norm. Your discomfort with eye contact might not be personal pathology. It might be cultural mismatch or simply individual variation in social processing preferences. Clinical psychology. Research shows that difficulty with eye contact correlates with several traits: introversion, high sensitivity, social anxiety, autism spectrum, ADHD, and trauma history. These aren't disorders in themselves, they're neurodevelopmental and personality variations. If you're an introvert, you might find eye contact draining because it's an intense form of social engagement. If you're highly sensitive, the emotional intensity of eye contact might overwhelm you. If you have trauma history, eye contact might trigger hypervigilance or fear responses. Your eye contact difficulty isn't happening in a vacuum. It's connected to how your nervous system processes social information. Here's the irony that reveals how arbitrary these social rules are. In many professional contexts, too much eye contact is considered aggressive or intimidating. Staring unblinkingly at someone during a business meeting can come across as hostile or domineering. The right amount of eye contact is a narrow band between too little appearing weak or dishonest, and too much appearing aggressive or weird. And this band varies by culture, context, relationship, and individual preference. You're being judged for falling outside an arbitrary, culturally specific, contextually variable norm. Studies on deception detection reveal something fascinating. People believe that liars avoid eye contact, but research shows this isn't true. Liars often maintain more eye contact than truth-tellers because they're trying to appear honest. Honest people, especially when recalling complex information, naturally look away to concentrate. Your eye contact avoidance might actually be a sign of cognitive effort and honesty, not deception. But cultural myths persist, and you're judged based on those myths rather than reality. Let's address the social anxiety component, because for many people, eye contact difficulty is rooted in anxiety about being judged or evaluated. When you look into someone's eyes, you feel exposed, like they can see into you, judge you, detect your inadequacy. This creates a feedback loop. You avoid eye contact because it feels exposing, which makes people judge you negatively, which reinforces your anxiety about eye contact. Breaking this cycle requires understanding that the judgment you fear is often based on this understanding of what eye contact avoidance means. Research on gaze aversion and memory shows that when people are asked difficult questions, they naturally look away. This is called gaze aversion, and it's a universal human behavior during cognitive effort. When you're trying to remember something or solve a problem, looking away helps. Studies show that children who are allowed to look away while answering questions perform better than children forced to maintain eye contact. Your eye contact avoidance during conversation might be a sign that you're thinking carefully about your response, not that you're disengaged. Here's the neurodivergent perspective that explains so much. For people with ADHD, maintaining eye contact can be nearly impossible because it adds another task to an already overwhelmed attention system. For people on the autism spectrum, eye contact can feel physically painful or emotionally overwhelming. For people with social anxiety, it triggers intense self-consciousness. These aren't moral failings or social incompetence, they're new differences in how the brain processes social stimuli. Your difficulty isn't something to overcome through willpower alone, it's something to accommodate and work with. Let's talk about practical strategies that respect your neurology rather than fighting it. First, to look at the bridge of the nose or forehead trick from a distance. This appears like eye contact, but reduces the intensity. Second, intermittent eye contact, brief glances, followed by looking away, is more sustainable than constant staring and often feels more natural anyway. Third, explaining your pattern. I process information better when I'm not maintaining constant eye contact can preempt judgment. Fourth, choosing contexts where eye contact matters, less video calls where you can look at the screen instead of the camera, phone calls where eye contact isn't expected, written communication where it's irrelevant. Research on trust and connection reveals something important. Sustained eye contact is one way to build connection, but it's not the only way. Active listening, empathy, thoughtful responses, reliability, and consistency all build trust and connection. You can be deeply connected to someone without staring into their eyes. Your relationships aren't doomed because you struggle with eye contact. They just require building connection through other channels.